Welcome back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with Philip. Philip, welcome back. It's been only a second for us. It might have been 2-3 days or 2-3 episodes for the viewers, subscribers. Welcome back, everybody who's here for the first time. This is a comedy show. Nothing we say has anything to do with reality. And now that that's out of the way, Philip, we were talking about this meme and this basement, which looks like a normal basement, except it has windows and doors, and these basements can be found all over the world. Like any city, basically, even like I keep saying in Australia where there shouldn't be this stuff. Do you want to continue?
If you just returned from the pharmacy and took some pills, then I would just start from this. So we stopped at the tunnels. So I would say that we've had tunnels from one continent to another continent. It was like a, I don't know, hyperloop or pneumatic.
Hyperloop.
Yeah.
Musk is such a funny person. No comment. Anyway,
So basically,
Hyperloop.
pneumatic system of transportation.
Yeah, I got it. But like, just Musk is funny. Anyway,
And now we have these tunnels everywhere. Every country is, filled with these tunnels, stuffed with this tunnel system. And all these tunnels, most of them were, buried. The entrances, for example, one of the tunnels I was familiar with was in my home city. It was also a basement shop, sub-basement floor. So my friend kept a armor shop in my home city. And he told me this story. When you go to my shop, you find that there's a basement underneath my sub-basement level. And so I started to dig the soil under it. And they saw a brick tunnel.
there's always
So
a basement under the basement. There's
Yeah.
that's what I've found out. Like there's like however deep you go, there's always another basement, basically.
So they opened up this tunnel, and then it had like a wind from there. So basically, it was connected to something else. So they went down there, so that it was like a big tunnel where 4 horsemen probably can ride and don't touch anyone. So anyone could be interrupted. To say, I mean, even a big car, maybe even Land Cruiser, Toyota Land Cruiser can ride in this tunnel. So they immediately climbed out of there up into the shop, and so they called the people from museum, which was located like a couple of blocks from there. So immediately 2 folks came to them in 30 minutes. They were there. They started climbing down, checking out what they just found. They were pretty much astonished. And like in an hour or something, Russian security service came, and so they said everybody out, and they put the pipe with the concrete in that hole and poured the whole truck of concrete there, so nobody go there anymore. So that's how the story ended. So everywhere you see these tunnels, everywhere, and you can find them. Some are open, some are closed, some are sealed, and so on.
And they're everywhere around the world, basically. That's not just a Russia thing. Like, I'm trying to find, the whole time that you were talking, there was this video that I came across a while ago. I can't find it now. But there's a guy who's like a, cave explorer, tunnel guy. He has nothing to do with this kind of stuff that you're talking about. And he goes into this, like, German Nazi, fans of nuts. They like nuts. The old ones, not the new ones. And he goes into the like World War II era bunkers, and he realizes that some of these bunkers are built long before there were needs for bunkers, and that they're huge, like you say, like 4 horses or 2 tanks across, and they're you know all made from this red brick. And even he, as like just random person, finds this very interesting. I'll find this video at some point, and we'll definitely cover it in another talk that we do. But is there anything else that you'd wanted to cover of this red brick story?
Completely lost track of the logic I was starting with, but since we were talking about the peace treaty and the period after it, so how we got this situation into that this parasitic race started to control this world is basically because of the infiltration of the elites and replacement of one certain groups of people with other people who were basically illiterate. They didn't have any knowledge on what's going on. They were put there
Illiterate.
yeah, illiterate people who didn't understand what's
Yeah.
going on. They were schooled by the control with the control of these parasites. So all this information, all these new studies, all this, I would say, cosmogony of the world were taught them, and religion itself is probably the way to control it. Because I don't know if we talk about Russian Orthodox Church. In Russian Orthodox Church, people called slaves of God. But basically, for example, if we go to Russian history, you would find that one of the first dukes of Russia, I would say, when he was conquering the city of Constantinople, or modern Istanbul, with the Byzantine Empire guy, and they were like seeing all these people coming on horses and with weapons and so on, and so they let them in, and they said like, who are you guys, what do you want? They said, we came to tell you that nobody calls us slaves, and our gods don't call us slaves too, so you cannot just steal people from us and so on. So Russians were always trying to kind of bring this ancient way of things to the Western civilization, I would say. So and if you find what was written on the maps back in the days, you find that the big part of the Asia was called Tartaria on different maps.
I was just
And
gonna get there. Tartaria.
Yeah.
But as a Russian, I mean, you being a Russian, I have to ask you. There was news recently, in the last maybe 5-7 years, that the Russian, I think maybe it was Medvedev, but I can't remember. The Russian government, let's say, released the secret history of the Tartar people. And does that have to do anything with what we all know as Tartaria?
Basically, it's one layer was put on the other layer. So current Tatar people is city of Kazan, and for example, there's Crimean Tatars. These Tatars were always called Bulgars. They were living on the river of Volga, of Bulga, and some of these people went all the way to the Eastern Europe and started a country called Bulgaria. Some of them left in Crimea, and some were where they originally lived in near Volga River, Caspian Sea. And these people were called Bulgars up to 20th century, I believe. So, but in certain places, there is a definition named Tatar or Tartar. But and they compare these people to Tartars, because currently they are known as Tatar Republic in Russia and Crimean Tatars, but basically they are Muslim Bulgars, and Bulgars are
So they're not.
Christians. So
So they're not the related people. Basically, it's not the same thing. And when like from my quote unquote research or what I've seen online, the Tartarian Empire, as it's interpreted to be, was basically a loose federation of a couple of empires, and they were some Christian, some Muslim, some other things, from what I understand. But they were very loosely, let's say, ruled or defined. Like it wasn't like Moscow was the center of everything.
No, you jump from one thing to another, but I just kept saying about Tatars. Now we go to Mongols. Mongols
Hmm.
are supposedly the people with Tatars, along with Tatars, created something called Mongol Tatarian Order or Orda, meaning current world order is pretty much the same military order on all Asia and probably even Eastern Europe. So, meaning that everybody paid them like 10% of their income, and that's it. That's all the taxes they were actually mm, taxing these countries, these provinces of this. But
Tell
actually,
us,
when you
tell us who
go
Tamerlane
to
is.
Mongols, go to Mongols, and you find out Mongols never knew that they're Mongols until Soviets came. So the same story with Tatars, as I've said. Uh, Plenty of researchers already humiliated all this Mongol Tatarian 300 years of capturing of Russia and all Asia, because basically you don't have any artifacts. Well, you have some. You have some mentions. You have like this story about Genghis Khan. You have a story about his Khan Bati, Khan Timur, and so on. So basically a lot of this. But you also have Fomenko, who was saying that they confused it with great Mongols. Great Tatars and great Mongols were confused and mixed together and created this myth for 300 years. Mongols came from China all the way, conquered China privately, by the way. The whole China was conquered by Mongols, and they came all the way through Asia to the Eastern Europe and even up to Budapest, I think. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this is ridiculous story. It's the same story about Napoleon, telling that Napoleon was walking with 500,000 on the same road
So
to
wait,
Moscow.
so wait,
So
wait,
basically,
wait, wait,
they
wait.
cannot feed their
I have to,
horses
I
when
have
they
to ask
go.
you. I have to ask you
Yes.
because we're getting. You mentioned Napoleon. I wasn't gonna mention it. I was gonna mention it last episode, but then I was like, no, I'll keep my mouth shut. But so Napoleon worked with the Russians to fight against the Mongols, basically, right?
No. 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 So once you understand the fakery and false of this theory about Mongol Tatar, you ask who the fuck were Tartars then? Tartars were Asian people, these ant people that I've been talking about, big people who wants to fight, good in fighting, and so on, big warriors, horses, all this stuff, archers, these brilliant people. But they were used Russian Empire, and they were called Cossacks. You know, Cossacks is basically the border patrol people, or maybe ranger in American. I would say.
Vocabulary or jargon, yeah.
Yeah, so people on horses who ride horses, who can do whatever with horses, who are perfect in fighting and shooting, and who are special agents, whatever troops who can do whatever task you want them to do. If you shoot these people, they gonna avoid bullets like Matrix and so on. So there's a lot of fairy tales about Cossacks, how good they were in fighting. And even now, if you go to circuses in Russia, sometimes in some circuses you find how these Cossacks ride horses, and they're just brilliant in riding, the skills and mastership. And also there's plenty of sword mastering tactics that they still obtain in Ukraine and in Russia. This sword tactics is well known. Also, Cossacks were the guys who were actually in Paris after beating Napoleon troops and sending them home in 1814. These
You know,
Cossacks,
the
they
special
were
military
impaired.
fun fact, special military operation, week 3 or something like that, and the like on my feed, somebody points out that the French are talking too much, and that they should remember that their cafes in France are called bistros because in Russian, bistro means fast, as in bring me the coffee fast, because the Russians were there. When? When did you say?
1814.
There you go. So, yeah, French people
So
watching.
basically,
Go
there
on.
was like this Tartarian land. It's not an empire, as you said. It wasn't a big empire or something. It's just the remaining part of unconquered territory of ex big civilization. Because they were conquering one
In your
part after
personal
another.
opinion, in your personal
And
opinion,
so
do you
this big
do you
land,
think?
this big land is called Tartaria, not for nothing. It's just because it was mining wastelands. Mining means people were mining there way before. It was used for mining and resource production. It was like even currently, Russians are mining everywhere on this territory. Understand? Even Donbass was a part of it because Donbass is
Yeah.
full of gas mining, coal mining, so on. So all this territory, this axis of mining is called Tartaria because tar in Britain, for example, is a dirty thing. When you go to mining, these guys miners, they all black because of this tar thing, and tar is something from underground, all this mining, tunnel construction, and so on. So basically
Um,
the
that's a perfect segue. Hold on, I have to make you talk about because you mentioned Donbass, and Donbass has terracones, and when I realized that terracones were basically mine heaps and that we have these kind of mountains everywhere, do you want to take a minute or two and talk about like these kind of mountains that are
basically,
found everywhere?
yeah, this shape is not for just a natural shape. This shape is sometimes you have something like this because it was used by the miners of ancient times. They were dumping the waste on these places, and now we can see him with grass and forest, sometimes looking like a mountain or something. But basically, they look like modern mining terracones, although no vegetation is still visible in these terracones. They will look pretty much the same in 200-300 years. Okay. So basically, we see the process of terraformation, mining everywhere on Earth, and it's not only in Asia; it's in South, North America, everywhere. So that's where the money came. That's where um, who was funding this process. Those who were funding this process, they were controlling the territory. And I've heard about people were producing gas, and someone called this a gas empire or something. So it's basically Tartaria is the wastelands of this ex-gas empire. I call it Empire of Ross because in some books in Bible it was mentioned as Rosh or Ross land, and so the whole earth was called Ross. And then we have like a Game of Thrones where uh, all this land was called Westeros, right? Big place, and they will also have this.
Westeros, yeah, that it is from Game of Thrones. Do you think we're living in a Game
Yeah,
of Thrones? I got two questions for you. One, do you think we're living in a Game of Thrones where there's like mythical creatures and so on and so forth, and there's like the winter and like the hinterlands? And two, do actually answer that while I remember the second question.
well, I think those people who were writing these books, they're all involved in these clubs, which contain information, and they read these books and they know what's going on. So basically, all this Ross Empire, this gas empire, and that's just they use this last name, added West to it, and so it would be like Western civilization and so on. And they put these people, winter people, probably these Tartarian people, they put it in the winter people behind the wall or something. I think this wall was supposed to be Ural Mountains, so basically it's a division between European part of Westeros and Asian part of Westeros, where it's cold as hell and so on. So basically we also have dragon race, which is the ex-dragon race of Chinese and Thai people. And
Man,
so
have you played Warhammer, the game?
no.
No, because Warhammer is there's all these races, and I gotta get a guest who's played Warhammer to discuss some of these topics with them, because there's so many parallels between the races in Warhammer and the map and how things are laid out and there are to reality. It's just unbelievable. You mentioned the Ural Mountains, and I've got some B-roll of these giant megaliths in Russia. Do you want to give us an outline of basically what the conspiracy theory is?
No, there's no conspiracy theory.
Okay, the
bunch of
joke. It's a comedy show.
There's a bunch of mining was going on back then, so miners were screwing around. They didn't know where to drop the waste and so on. So it started creating these big blocks. I think blocks could be created from this mud that comes from underneath when you drill. So basically, it's a liquid concrete, natural concrete that could be formed into such big blocks and so on. So that's how they were creating these blocks, by the way. Nobody was doing them, cutting them from the mountains and so on. So most of these blocks are just ancient mining constructions, big buildings and so on. So I think it's related to miners.
You were saying, what was the name of that video that you mentioned with the empire being of energy?
Oh, I don't know. I have so many of them. This video. Yeah. So basically, you had this country called Empire of Ross, or we call it Gas Empire. Somebody called, because the main resource they have been mining is gas, because the gas was used to create these cities. My theory is all these star cities are just ancient mining sites or distribution of gas sites. So, and if you look to some maps, you can understand that could be true, because all of them were located near the water. So could be actually using water as a logistics, as for example transportation, whatever. And some of them have even these remnants of ancient pipelines, so-called pipelines. In Russia, we have a so-called Zmyvy Valley, or maybe you call it wall, big wall, snake wall. In Russian mythology, the snake wall was created by a big snake, who was dragged on the soil and created this huge wall of earth and soil. But actually, if you look at these walls were constructed so-called 1st to 7th century, something like this. They date in this far, but they were created with something inside them. So that could be ancient pipeline, because pipes could be rusting out and dissolving. You won't find a pipe in several centuries. It's going to be dissolved.
So you're saying that the tunnels could have had pipes in them, and the pipes themselves, whatever material they were.
Pipes are not made in the tunnels. Pipes are made on the surface.
Oh, for real, huh?
because it's no use of me creating the pipeline underneath. It's too
Can you
expensive.
send the name, this Russian thing, like the Zmi wall? Can you send a
Yes.
link so that I can put it up for screen for people to see pictures, maybe, or like where it is? You can Yandex it, haha. Also, I'm gonna put some B-roll in the background of Moscow, and you walking through Moscow, showing us all these buildings that have basements at street level that are basically windows.
I've sent you the link. Well, some of these buildings are just reconstructed, renovated buildings from the 19th century. But if you go, most of them look like buried constructions. So basically, they were buried first, and then they were renovated as new buildings. So this type of, as you can see, huge territories covered with these so-called walls. But basically, these walls have an inside, and they all connected to star forts. Okay, the length of these walls is very big. Very big.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I never saw these maps. Yeah.
These walls could be ancient pipelines because they have this angular structure, which you still can find on modern gas pipelines because they have this pressure angles on the pipelines.
Pipelines and petrodollars, which is one of our favorite topics here at Working Brothers with George. I'll leave a playlist with him. But this is like in the ancient times, is what you're telling me. And they're everywhere.
Yeah,
So-called,
Russian,
so-called ancient times.
So, like, you have a Starfort city or whatever Starfort shape, maybe not with bricks, but only the shape that you can find from the aerial photo shoot, and you see these lines from each Starfort to another Starfort, and these lines are basically pipelines. So Starforts are actually the wells of gas, where you pump the gas from fracking and so on, of the gas.
Yeah, makes perfect sense when you look at it like that. When you look at it like that, with the energy infrastructure, and they're always built next to next to water sources for cooling and for energy.
Yeah. I have a video, mudflood versus mud volcanoes versus star forts, or something like this. You can find it on my channel. Perfectly explains everything with examples from the future, from the past, and so on. Modern examples where you can find the similarities of gas production way before and currently. So I mean, this. I think I've proved this theory more than enough. More than enough.
I will leave a link to your channel for sure down in the description. And I also, let me play this trailer, because like this episode already, like people who are watching now, they're watching because they want to watch. So let me play this Mudflood Advanced Research trailer. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
After you told me that you did video directing and stuff before, it shows in this trailer, man. That's an excellent trailer. I like the fact that you even found cartoons and videos of the mud stuff. I just want to point out for people who might be curious or suspicious or skeptical, look for liquefaction of soil due to earthquakes. And
Don't do it.
don't go down the rabbit hole, huh? Don't go down the
No,
rabbit hole.
no. Don't do it, because it's just another bullshit to explain the mud flood. But actually, it wasn't possible to do liquefaction to have what we have. I've been observing all these years. Liquefaction is a different thing. It's connected to earthquakes, not to burying the buildings, because when you have an earthquake with the liquefaction, it's called liquefaction not for simple reasons. It's called liquefaction because all the ground is vibrating everywhere, and the buildings start sinking and leaning to the side, and they're like cracking the walls and so on. They're totally collapsing. So if you would have liquefaction, a natural thing, and compared to these perfectly standing buildings everywhere with no cracks on the wall, with sub-basement floors which are buried with the mud and so on, that doesn't add up to liquefaction. Liquefaction would destroy these walls. The walls would be cracked, the buildings would collapse. So liquefaction is not an explanation. It's just one of the things that were dropped into the public once I was starting to explain people that not everything is not that simple as what they think. It's just one.
I just want to get two things out there. I just want to get two things out there. One, if anybody thought I was beholden to anyone about anything, and like thought that I had secret sponsors or backers, the fact that we're talking about all these topics, I think, should be witness enough to the fact that the only thing that supports me is your guys' coffee and the Patreons, and the fact that I don't really care and I want to talk about stuff, funny stuff, with all my guests. So thank you to everyone who's bought me coffee and so on. And the second thing that I wanted to ask you, I remember that question from earlier. We were talking about the mining and how they had different regions, and they were basically the leftover civilization of the world miners. Let's put it that way. Do you think that there's some places on Earth now where these things are still going on that are off limits to us, that that are yet to be conquered, let's say, by these people who you mentioned, if you can call them people?
I've first thing that I've found on this topic, actually, like 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, that Japanese already have the technology of growing seeding or whatever, vegetating steel and iron on the bottom of the sea. So basically, if you watch the Google,
what they can grow steel on the bottom of the sea. That's what you just said.
Yeah, not steel, iron, metals,
whatever, but like metal,
iron, titan, gold, silver. I think everything could be possibly grown. So basically, if you watch that information closely, you would find out that most of the ocean have this type of grid lines everywhere, and which are visible on the Google Earth and maps like this. And you can see tracks of mining operations near big islands and so on. So
you mean like underground, underwater, I should say, mining, basically, like scrapes
underwater
on the floor that are like thousands and thousands of miles long. Yeah.
Huge marks of rotor excavators, these big devices that can cut through the
Dutch Sense. You may know Dutch Sense, the guy who forecasts earthquakes. He found one of those let's say scrapes on the bottom of the coast near, I think, off the coast of California, if I'm not mistaken. Either California or Washington. One of those has a long scrape like that that's like thousands of miles long.
I've seen a lot of these examples. So I mean, whatever I watch I find this tracks everywhere. So basically, most of these big lakes are the so-called, uh, I would say, quarries, flooded quarries of the ancient times. So basically, oceans are also big, big quarries because once you have a left quarry, it starts to be sunken by the salt water and so on. So you have different composure of the water in different lakes because you have different types of methods used in excavating and drilling or whatever you do there. So basically, you have different uh, chemical chemical different chemicals and different water resources, different lakes and so on. So some have more salty, some have less salty, like Baltic Sea, if compared to Mediterranean, is less salty, and so on. Black Sea is also less salty than Mediterranean. So the big quarries have bigger element base and so on. So that's why Japanese do it on the bottom of the sea, because you can find each and every element in ocean, and so they kind of attract these elements in so-called big bowls, and then they can harvest these bowls from the bottom of the sea, and so that's why they can connect pure metals underneath. And I think that was one of the technology that could be used in the past also, because what we can visualize currently is all from the past, just reinvented technologies, I would say.
Rediscovered, reinvented. We were,
Rediscovered.
yeah, we did. We were talking about some of that in the other talk we did. But one of the videos that I've got here is your video on St. Petersburg, and we already went through a little bit of Moscow. St. Petersburg is even more complicated, I think, than Moscow. Um, what what do you have to say? What did you find about St. Petersburg?
Oh, when I went to St. Petersburg for a couple of times, I was just filming this mouthful evidence of these ancient buildings, and I've met this lady. She was also researching from the official position all this information. So she found out there's a lot of false information about the foundation of the city itself. So it wasn't like found on the swamps like it's originally been told to us.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, there was some certain countries civilization uh, closer to probably German civilization, as she thinks, or Swedish nation. But basically, these people were also part of the ancient people. The ancient people I've been talking about. So she showed me all these maps showing that there was depiction of cities. So basically, Peter the First, the Russian emperor, didn't found the city in the swamps. He found the city where the city was, and he was just upgrading it. Yeah,
He
and
found a city
so
where there was a city already.
yeah. And so we went to some certain sites where she showed me the remainings of these places and so on. So we were underneath this one of these
Th-
ancient.
this is his house, or what is it called?
Yeah,
This place, is it his house actually? And this was brought up in some other conspiracy theory channels that I follow, that these red bricks are also here, and that there's inscriptions, I believe, on them that are the similar as some like red bricks somewhere very very far
Or
away.
look at this. Look at this. Look at this bricks, and if you rewind it a little bit, you'll find out that it was excavated. That's how many the gap that was excavated here. You can see
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
The depth here
so
is
it
what
was,
you're saying.
yeah, depth. Yeah, the gap is like the
And
size of a,
here is exactly the like trace
yeah,
on the building
yeah,
itself. Yeah.
yeah. So there's plenty of these examples there about excavation everywhere, and so you can find something unusual underground, like tunnels and so on. And one of the places she showed me was a church, which was made to be a swimming pool in Soviet times, and it looks very interesting to see this, I would say, evolution of the church. A church, I would say, ancient building, then a church. Then after a church, it became a swimming pool, and now it's also a church again. So, but swimming pool is still in the basement of the church, and you can go all the way to the basement and find out that there's more windows there underground and so on. So that's like ridiculous. Historians are not commenting this story.
There's a lot of his story that the actual historians don't know or don't like care to know or don't care to like actually go into in detail. They just know their like little story and that's what they tell.
It's like a meme, his story, but actually in Russian, it's his story, means taken from Torah.
His
So the
story.
his story, yeah. So
Historia.
so you have like this ancient book called Torah. So you take this knowledge from Torah and you plug it everywhere, and you get this his story.
That's
Okay.
funny. It's good this is a comedy show because that's very funny. By the way, I also want to tell subscribers or anybody who's watching this by accident that a lot of the other guests that I've had on privately have some of these views or questions or so on and so forth. But Philip here is the let's say going to be from now on our resident expert when it comes to some of these conspiracy theories. Now, I got news just now that Biden is officially out of the race. Do you want to comment on Biden and everything else?
Well, a year ago, you won't believe it, I had a video called Black Spot with Russian Vids as a special guest, and we were discussing this. I was telling him that I'm pretty sure Biden's gonna be dropping out soon because he's got the black spot. Black spot is what pirates gave to each other when they wanted to give a final warning. You know this Treasure Island book, for example, they were using black spot there. And if you actually check black spot in numerology is 33, and so Biden was using a lot of things that are related to this 33 thing. And
you
so
want to get into numerology too, huh?
Yeah, it's not because I'm into numerology. It's just because I was trying to research reset and how they actually do the resets and so on. So I found out a lot of information about that, and that brought me to my friend Russian Vids, who was also researching different things like conspiracy theories and so on. So, and basically at that video, I was proving him that Biden is all black spotted and he's gonna get kicked out of the race, even though it wasn't so obvious back then, a year ago, or maybe even more. So, and like, look what's happening now. Last month, when he lost the debate, everybody started to talk about that. It's became a mainstream information, like Biden's dropping out. And even maybe yesterday, I was already sure he's gonna drop out, and I posted this video by Biden on one of my channels just to
you shared it. You
commemorate.
You shared it to my channel as well.
Yeah, because it's very obvious, and I can bet on that. I could have bet on that a year ago. I could have bet on that yesterday. I could have bet on that a week ago, and so I have a bunch of videos about that stuff. So I mean, that is obvious.
I just wanted to put it on the record. Today is the 21st of the 7th. So for people who are like watching this, because I don't know when this is going to be uploaded, maybe in like 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And speaking of predictions, there's one video on your channel that is also looks like it's going to be coming true. This is from a year ago, dollar crash in 27.28. Do you want to tell us what you say here and why you think there's going to be?
It was just a response to It was just a response to the folks who were saying the dollar's gonna crash. And I found a lot of videos, and I was just making the video response to people who was saying that. So, I mean, in my point of view, we can see that, but only in the future, but not like in 2023, as they were saying, like, So basically,
Hmm.
my folks are coming. I already hear them coming, so they're gonna be loud. I'm gonna close
Um,
this door.
all right. I don't what's it called? I don't mind background noise. Our subscribers don't mind background noise. If you don't mind, but if you're in a hurry, let me know and we can wrap this up now
Well,
and then continue some other
uh,
time.
once you research this reset information from the past, you start comparing what's going on currently, and you find out all these similarities, just like I've been showing you in this technology thing. The same as in politics, the same as in governance technologies, and so on. So, I mean, all this stuff like empty streets, no people, could be performed in different centuries, told us different things, different explanations, right? But when you visualize and compare, you understand that something is similar, something behind all this script, right? So basically, you have a replacement of certain people in certain areas, step by step. They replace the old people, get rid of them, put there new people, brainwashed people, and these people are fine with everything they've been told, and they perfectly fit in this new narrative, new world order, whatever you call them, and just pay taxes, have fun, consume, focus on consumption and buying things, not on working and actually creating things, losing their own identity, losing their conservative values, all these family issues, and so on. So basically, you have the replacement process, and it's already ongoing, and it's called Great Reset. For several decades already, they've been showing this to us, and they're not hiding this information. So, I mean, I've been talking about this in parallel with this
Hmm.
mudflood research because I was understanding this is comparable, and that could be an explanation and actually a proof of that ancient times reset is similar to what we have right now.
So, do you think there's other continents that are hidden?
Uh,
This is the UN flag for anybody who's living on like Mars. Um, it's also the
I'm not
flat Earth
sure.
map.
I'm not sure about the ideal map for us to discuss currently. Maybe we should do it next time when I'm more ready to that topic. But I know that the world doesn't end on this map. That's for sure. Ancient people believed that we have several layers, and our land is called Midgard, meaning it's in the middle, in the center, and that's why we have this axis of rotation of the stars above the so-called North Pole, right? That's why we have a reflection of the same rotation on the Southern Pole, but interpreted in different way. We can argue about that with different people, but you have to understand one thing, that the world doesn't end in these borders that they tell us. This is just the part of it. Okay, so it's the part
I
that
know
is
exactly
currently
which
controlled.
projection. I know exactly which projection you're talking about, and Vibes of Cosmos. I think the name of the YouTube channel with that Moon Earth map thing. He has a video where he shows that basically there's things that could be off map, like what we would consider the end of the map. And before we finish with the shape of
Basically,
the
you have to
Earth.
understand that water is water is way to connect this world. So basically, we are connected via water.
Um,
That's why all this area around us in Russia, in Russian mythology, was called Navi worlds. It's not world, it's worlds. So it's basically a lot of worlds which are connected via oceans and water. That's why we have this navigate term, meaning you can travel on water, navigate. Basically, our Earth is a gate to a Navi world. That's why we have a navigation. We have been connected to each and every world. Now we are not connected because the system is closed and nobody can leave the system, including these parasites. So they established this control here and they are trying to govern us as much as they can and collect all the goods, all the mining from this place. That's what they do.
That's one way to put it. Shall we close it there, or shall we go into some more things? How are you doing for time?
I think we should stop for today because my folks are already here, so I'm not sure they will be messing around.
Let's put a classic flat Earth meme up there, and thank you again for coming on.
Weather, by the way, is also 33 in numerology, so don't.
What is 33?
Yeah, flat Earth, yes.
Oh, for real? Flat Earth is 33 in mythology? I mean numerology.
Yeah.
Wow. On that bombshell, Philip, thank you for coming on for these two talks. This was amazing. We hope you'll be back soon. Subscribers, like, share, all that good stuff. See you soon.